Shiva, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for inviting me to this talk. So today, I'm going to give a talk about technology. First of all, some disclaimer. I'm not a pedagogy expert, so I wasn't able to talk too much about education per se. But I'm going to show you some of the technology, where we are going, and where other trends are. Now, first of all, just about a couple of years ago, there was a survey being done. The number of graduates that's coming out worldwide is roughly about 129 million graduates a year, right? And majority of them come from China, the US, and India. Going forward itself, in 2020, the projected was that roughly there will be about 204 million graduates. Majority of them is going to come from the two major countries, India and China. And this is where education is very, very important. We are going to basically, a lot of the graduate is going to work in a lot of multinational companies. It's going to shape the world. Now, let's take a look. The number of mobile devices, or rather tech devices that owns by graduate. Most of the graduate right now owns a laptop, needless to say, most of them, if not everyone, owns a laptop. But the interesting thing is that also there's a lot of people actually owns a smartphone too. And there was a survey being done a couple of years ago. Of course now, things are changing. This is the projections done by some surveys. As we could go forward now at 2020, you see that roughly about 76% of the graduate, and this is basically the US survey. Not all US students actually owns all mobile devices. But going forward, you see that most of the students, if not all the students, will own one devices or another. The interesting thing is that this is also translates to the world that we are changing. Lab PCs is going to be, the growth of PC is going to be slowed down tremendously. You will see that there here a lot of reports. Mobile devices, tablets is going to grow tremendously. And this is where the trend is. A lot of us is owning all these kind of devices all the time. In fact, our workplace is now changing. So education itself is going to change too. Now students like this is very familiar. This is a picture that I taken over in China. Students gather around mobile phones, either they play over games, looking at the videos, looking at the photograph, all these are very common. Students owning one devices, two devices are very common nowadays. Going forward, in fact, a lot of students, I do not know about in India itself, but over in China and in many other places, there are students who hold multiple devices. I myself hold actually 3 mobile phones when I travel to India, right? One from my own country, one for traveling, and one issued by the company, because I didn't want the company to know, to call my personal phone. But it is a common phenomenon right now, that students is owning multiple devices. Now this is a study about not just the graduate students, looking at the pre-K-12. The students, the number of kids that's accessing to mobile devices is growing tremendously. Look at it is at the moment over here, close to 50% of the students, or rather, or the pre-K-12 kids actually access their parents' computer. 43% of them access their mobiles or tablets, and so forth. So you see that there is, even at kids at a very young age, pre-K-12, basically before they enter primary school, they already start to access high-tech devices. A study in Korea shows the number of frequency 3 to 5 years old kids access to all these devices. And you can see that it is growing. They access at least once a week, if not more. And then they access it for quite a long time, right? So this chart itself, for those who are interested, is available on my slide. Now, what will happen? Are we going to have a change of class where now the students is going to use all these devices to answer the teachers and whatsoever? Is this going to be a scenario that's going to happen? One of the very important things is that we, as a, me as also an educator, we have somehow able to embrace this technology. Now, one of the things in fact, in China itself, the teachers, in one of the schools, the teachers does not know how to handle all these mobile devices. It was so much so that they felt that it was harmful, and they actually changed all their smartphone, the students' smartphone, and give them feature phones, basically phones with much larger features. So this is happening in China. But is that the way to go? Do we just change, prevent the students from using smart devices like the smartphone or the tablets? Now we do know that all these technologies around us, from Google's to smartphones to Facebook's, Pinterest, music, TV, students are doing all sorts of things all simultaneously. The current generation are all multi-threading people. They do all sorts of things, multitasking all the time. So we need to find somehow to embrace it. Use this technology to actually enable our education. I'm not an expert in this, but I'm going to show you some of the trends that what other people are doing. Going into class right now, for those of you who are teachers and lecturers, you go into universities right now. Most of the students, first of all, when you start the lecture, they open up their laptop. Well, whether they are looking for the right answers by the professors that have presented, checking the answers is correct, or they are chatting with their friends, or, in other words, they might be watching movies and not paying attention in class. But the notebook is open up. Basically, they are doing something with their notebook or smart devices. Kids like this is a common phenomenon. You go to places like in Singapore, in US or whatsoever, kids as young as in the pre-kindergartens or whatsoever are already start accessing to pre-notebooks, right? So tablets like this and so forth. So could we able to teachers is now, for those teachers who are not actually lecturers or teachers who are not well versed in technology, there's going to be a disconnect very, very fast. We need to somehow able the teachers to learn about the technology and then able to connect with the students socially. Going forward, libraries is changing too. This is the library that I used to. You go into a library full of books and whatsoever. Nowadays, I go to my university library, I see this, right? It's all computers. And what you do is that you go on it, go into a digital library, pull out the papers, pull out the books, read it off it, or whatsoever. And this is what my library is going to look like in the future. And this is pretty much what to say, is that we have all these tablets, Notes, Sony, or whatsoever, all the tablets, and basically the whole library is all existed down there. And the traditional library is slowly going away. Now, application on the phone and tablets is also changing. At the moment right now, you do emails on it, you do a search, you have maps or whatsoever. This is very standard, you find it. You also see that people are doing banking on it too. So these are all common apps. But the interesting thing is that education are adopting it in some places. For example, this is where the medical schools are using tablets on. They actually allow the students to actually able to go into the 3D tablets, into the 3D virtual humans, able to scan through it, be able to experience it. So you bring in a different kind of things. Instead of every time having to access to a dead body, right, or whatsoever, or books, just the books, you're able to experience this thing. So again, one of the things. The other one is that when you teach a geography class, you are now able to use the GIS technology. You're able to walk through a geographical terrains, not just simply looking at books itself, not just simply looking at the maps, but now you're able to walk through it and understand how the terrain actually look like when you do a geography class. Now, the augmented reality has been around, have been people talking about for a long time. And how do we actually use it for education? One of the very interesting things was a place called filialhistory.org. And basically what they do is that they are able to augment reality with the videos so that they can able to teach history very easily. One of the things was that if you look at this, the slides itself, look at the thing itself, is that when you walk into a place, you're able to quickly connect it back to the cloud, connect to the server, and then shows what the history of the place look like. Isn't it more experiential for the students that are learning history than rather they just read from book that, well, this place used to be look like this, and I don't know actually how it look like, but you can go to the library and look at it. But instead, you can use a video camera, mobile devices, you walk on the street, you go down there, a place, you snap on it, and immediately you are able to say, okay, this place a few years ago, it looked like this, 10 years ago, it looked like this. And this is another example of it. If you look at it over here, I do not know whether you can see it, but what you could see is that it has show you the difference between the current buildings, how it looks like in the moment right now, and then in the past. This is one example of this. This is another example of how the things look like many years ago. And so it gives you, the students, an experience on how to go about learning history. It gives you a sensation, it gives you an immersive experience on how you learn history. All these things make it possible by what we call computational photography, a new term. Don't worry too much about it, but it's a new term that's used by computer scientists just to make everyone confused and keep our job. But basically means it's able to compute photography in a real time. And all these things can be done on the mobile devices. Things that, oops. Where do I? Could you able to go back to the slides again? Yes, thank you very much. So there are basically now the technology, everything is squeezed into such a small, so powerful that you can actually able to compute it off a mobile devices, right? So Nvidia, like my company, is working a lot in this line. So what happened is that kids that born in this generation does not know anything that is without technology, period. They're born, the moment they are born, they see a mobile device. They see an iPad. They see a smartphone. They never know the world that exists without all these devices. They will walk up to you and say, they will never understand how the world will look like before that. What is a chalkboard? Or they ask such questions. So education and emerging technology is actually changing. There are so much technology that is coming on right now that actually changes the way that we work. So the question right now is that how do we actually embrace those technology and make it such that education will be interesting? One of the things was massively online, right, course. One of the survey over in Times, there was a few years ago, felt that the massively online courses is going to revolutionize higher education. And it is true. I think India is one of them. Every time I go to YouTube or whatever and access to some of the universities, I could able to access to the courses. Anything that I do not understand, for example, like quantum chemistry or quantum mechanics, I could go online and then take the course and watch the videos. So it is going to change the change the higher educations. Students sometimes come to class because they have to come to class because of attendance. But honestly, is that they don't actually pay much attention. They will go off to their rooms, switch on the videos, watch the videos, maybe go to sleep, eat some food, eat a pizza, and then go on to the course and iterate over again. So it's going to change the world. How it's going to change, I'm not that sure. There are a lot of courses that is available right now. everywhere is springing up. Some of them commercial, some of them are NGO. And there are all sorts of things. So we do know that they are all exist. Now, going forward is that most of the higher institution top leaders of IT has now put MOOC on their high agenda. How are they going to bring the course to them? MIT, Harvard, all these already have that. So we could see that this is an example of Udacity, where students do their work and through the PCs. And of course, needless to say, we also have now courses that's able to actually play it off from a mobile phone. And this is very convenient because now everyone has a mobile. Students working, whether they are going to a playground, going to anywhere, to a party, along the way, they could take out the mobile phone and do the courses. So that's it. Now, how do we bring that to think? One of the key things about in education right now is that a majority of them are video. We need to have an experiential learning for the students. So one of the things was simulation. Especially in the science and engineering area, you want to able to experiment with the things. When I tell you that how a pendulum works, if I just write down the equation, it's terribly boring. What you want to do is to experiment with it. But could you just every time access to a lab? What we could do is through simulation. So there are many, and let me just quickly go through this. There are many advantages of doing simulation in education. These are some of the points. And you could learn it realistic problem solving through simulation. But importantly is that the guys could actually experience it. So simulation is basically from everyday science and to bring into applications, right? We learn about Navier-Stokes equations. We learn about Maxwell equations. All these things looks very abstract to me. But the moment I can put it into an experiment, it would be great. But I could not access to a lab all the time. What I would like to do is to access to a digital lab. So these are the examples of it. These are simulations of a heart, a blood flow, how the blood is going to flow inside a body. It is very useful for medical students and so forth, but this requires pretty huge computation, and they could simulate how the blood is going to flow and so forth. Another one is the study of fluids, right? Helicopters, fluid dynamics, and so forth. The students, again, able to understand now my Navier-Stokes equation actually translate into this, how the flow is going to look like inside a helicopter. And they could actually experiment with it. Other examples will be things, this is the examples of how the water actually flow in the toilet bowl. It may be maybe something radical, but when you tell the students that how the fluid dynamics actually flow design of the toilet, this is one typical example on how fluid dynamics is being applied. So there are other examples like in computational finance, people doing risk analysis. Now you can actually create a virtual labs and then experiment with it before you make any mistakes. They gain the confidence, they have the experience. Other things will be like games theory, where they do auction, negotiation, business decisions, and so forth. All these things can be now be able to model and then digitize on a computer. There are many examples. There are many examples of labs that is produced by the universities and so forth. So things will be like the interactive physics and things like this. So actually, can we build this? Yes, we can. Because now, instead of having big machine, we can now, the technology has moved us to a stage where we now reduce to one simple small little card, right? So you have capable of running pretty complex simulation just on the desktop. But of course, when you want to do large simulations like the understanding of HIV or whatsoever, then you need much a bigger machine. One of the examples was the Titan, which is the fastest supercomputers in the US and Europe. Now, just want to show you the technology has moved on. One of the things was the graphic processor, because I come from Nvidia, the technology has actually moved very quickly, right? From the late 70s 1970s to the 2010s, they have moved tremendously. The machine that Siva and myself used to work on, it's called silicon graphics. This machine, the board is about this pretty big size. It costs about a couple of $1 million. Well, at the point in time, it's the state of the art. People are willing to pay for it. Now, you could have small little cards like this, and they have many of them add together and still not as powerful as that card. So that technology allows us to do a lot of things, a lot of simulation. Examples is this, is that you could see over here that the future of mechanical engineering design. So this is the technology that allow a mechanical engineers or anyone that's doing design whatsoever has an experience learning about design rather than just learning off from a textbook. Right? So there are other technologies that's come along. Things like the virtual desktops technology, and I'm going to run a bit faster over here. I'm not going to touch on it too much, but this is what basically a virtual means. Basically, it means that you can run very complex graphics processors and using your tablets or whatsoever to visualize them. Now, so you can combination of graphics, cloud, and computing. So education visualization 2.0 is here. And one of the couple of things is I'm going to show you examples here running simulation and visualization remotely. Now, the technology right now allows you to do that. And basically what you have is that people that are sitting about 600 over kilometers away, able to do simulations remotely without having a very, very high-end machines. That's basically the technology is now allowed ones to do that. Now, so with that, what Nvidia is doing is that we have academic programs to help academics to develop technology so that they can use it to do their teaching. We engage external researcher, we learn from them, we guide the researcher, and of course, we actually engage the researcher in evangelizing some of the technology that we have. So in Nvidia, we have what we call academic partnerships, the research center, teaching centers, and so forth. Now, one of the things was the Center of Excellence. The Center of Excellence is, the Center of Excellence is actually a small little group of universities where we consider them as top-notch research in this area, working very closely with us. Places like Harvard, Stanford, and so forth. And one of them recently we just announced, in fact yesterday, was IIT Bombay. And we are going to work closely with IIT Bombay in working on those research areas. There are other things like CUDA Research Center and CUDA Teaching Centers. Right. Now, we are very, very careful with using technology. Technology is not just the solution. We do not want to just simply use technology and we think that it can fix everything. So be careful about that. There's a reason why we want to work with the university, with the teachers, and people who design pedagogy on how to actually design a better curriculum. Some people would think that technologies can fix everything. That's not true, right? It's a very, very dangerous thought. We do not want to replace teacher with technology, having a robot teaching the children. That's not true. This is totally taking out the interaction and the social part of it. That is not very useful. Because what we end up is that we were robots teaching robots. And this is very, again, oops. I guess my machine crashed. Anyway, Could you go to the last slide for me, please?
Only last.
Yeah, the last, very last slide. Right, but we need to embrace technology. We still need to find a way of teaching, educating the people with using the technology to improve the efficiency, improve the way of getting knowledge to the students. Right, last but not least, this is my last slide. We would like to work together with people like yourself to understand how technology can be used in education. Thank you very much.